we can understand how important is the situation. So in in short, we would just like to say that we can't decide who lives and who dies. We all have to know that if a life is the most important thing in the world, and if they're giving us a price tag, it's almost like a discount in a sense that we can buy a life instead of just kill it and not feel the guilt that we're literally killing a life. They say that the most of the counter arguments will be where we are giving money to the terrorists, but the terrorists will still do it even though we do not give them money. So our basic conclusion is if they are giving us a price for someone or for something that is far more valuable than money, we should take it.
Thank you very much, Delegate Alberto. On behalf of the group against, do we have a debate speech?
Yes, we have.
Thank you, Mr. Joel. The microphone is yours.
So, as part of the group that defends the claim that we should not pay any ransom, we believe as a whole that it is not rightful to pay terrorists in order to get back civilians or soldiers of our country. Like, firstly, nobody wants terrorists around anyone, and by paying ransom, as you said, Alberto, we are giving money to the terrorists and funding their terror attacks so they can commit any more atrocities. Also, terrorists, they seem to make a profit out of kidnapping civilians, and us, by giving them money, we encourage terrorists to continue to to kidnap people so we can continue paying them and make profits. And with our money, they can purchase weapons, artillery, explosives, any sort of form to make damage to people. Also, not only does the secular law tell us to not pay terrorists, but the Jewish law also has a part in this that says that paying ransom it would create a financial and economic burden to our Jewish community, which then affects our education a lot more. And without that education, we would end up paying ransom. The Jewish law would also state that paying ransom, as the secular law says, would encourage more crimes and demand a higher ransom cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joel. So I'm going to explain how it's going to work now. Whoever wants to speak and give your arguments, okay, you will write on the chat to me privately, and I'll put you on the list of debaters that want to give their arguments. And the way this debate is going to work, as I explained in the assignment, when, for example, somebody I know is talking and somebody from the group in favor, like me, Isaac, wants to make a question on his statement or wants to interrupt him, you have to raise your hand on the Zoom hand. Okay, don't do like this because sometimes I won't see you. And then I would see if it's fit to interrupt the delegate or to wait for him to finish and give in place to your question. Remember, when you want to interrupt, that's gonna be called point of information, and that is a question. You need to finish it with a question. You cannot make an argument, counter argument. It has to be a question that has to be answered by the delegate. If you're gonna give a counter argument, please get on the list on the chat. Okay. So I have already on the chat, Mr. Michael. Okay, you have the phone to in order to start the debate. Please, Mr. Michael.
Como secular law, more.
Yeah. Start with the secular, yes.
Okay. So I read online a lot of information and I found one quote that really impacted me. It says, "Suppose that a kidnapper threatened to kill, say, my child, if I did not pay a modest ransom for him. If the threat were a realistic one and there were no other feasible way of securing their safe release, it would surely be morally obligatory for me to pay the money. To let the child die in order that further act of kidnapping would not be encouraged might be considered by some people to be a breach of the moral duty of a care of a parent. So, for some of you, I read a little bit fast. If you didn't understand the quote, it's saying that the government's duty is to protect its people. If it do not protect its people, to say, if a child gets kidnapped, the government should not let a parent be put in that situation where he should pay ransom, which is a lot of money, to bring back a life that he or she loves. And it is also said that the government should face the reality and that it should not face an possible outcome that we do not know if it could happen. We need to see the reality that is our people are kidnapped and that we need to do something about it. We can't just ignore it and not face the reality.
Thank you, Mr. Michael. Do we have any counter arguments? Mr. Liat, Mrs. Liat, I see you have a point of information. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So Michael argues that if we were to ignore it or not pay for ransom, then it would be basically ignoring that someone's life is going to be lost. However, in that process, it has been seen through the years that the more people pay for ransom, the bigger terrorism gets. So wouldn't that just be negligence, paying for terrorism and putting more people's lives in danger to save one single life?
That's a question.
Yes. Wouldn't it be negligent to pay for a single person and endanger more people?
Thank you. Mr. Michael, you have the right to answer. 1 second, Alberto. Mr. Michael has the right to answer or not?
Hola, ¿me escuchan?
Yes.
Ya, no, se me cortó el audio. ¿Puedes repetir la pregunta?
Okay, so as you state that it is negligent to ignore someone's life that's going to be lost, we have seen through the years that terrorism increases as more people pay ransom. So wouldn't it instead be negligent to pay for a single person and endanger more people?
It would, but it would also be negligent to actually ignore it, since let's say I am the voice of the government. It would say it would be negligent to be put, like to put a parent and say that was put in this case, to be put to pay an immense amount of money and to actually talk to people that are actually dangerous to, and like not take care of this, which you actually have more power, and these people don't know a lot about this. And if you actually neglect this and you make these people try and convince terrorists, could be a much worse case than it could be if you just handle this.
Thank you, Mr. Michael, for your answer. Mr. Alberto, you have the word.
I would like to make a counter argument against Liat. It's not something that we would consider based upon 45% of the entire kidnappings in the world have come from the Western Hemisphere, which some of have been in the United States, which they ignore ransom. And it doesn't make sense that they have increased over time even though they are not paying. So by ignoring it, it doesn't make sense that it would increase. If if your argument is that it would decrease as we ignore it, it would make sense, but it doesn't. Just as well, if any of us has, in any example, if any of us had someone we actually love, and he gets kidnapped, and they give us a value, they're telling us we can give you a second chance. And if that person that you love so much has the chance to live, we would do everything in our human power to bring him back. So in in your counter argument, you talk about the government itself, which wouldn't bring value to a certain person. But for someone like you, me, or anybody else who has somebody that you love and maybe kidnapped, then that argument would be a little bit different because we value every single life more importantly based on how much we care for that person.
Thank you, Mr. Alberto. I think we have an intervention from our jury. Ms. Charlie, please.
Alberto, I just want to ask, where do you get your statistic from, the 45% of kidnappings from the Western Hemisphere?
We got him on a research we did. All of our team made a Zoom call, and Michael got all of the statistics covered. He's gonna talk a little bit about it later.
Okay, and will Michael then cover which websites or which sites that you specifically used that is valid? So it's not news websites or things like that?
Yeah.
Most probably we will.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, jury. We're gonna give the word now to Delegate Udi Angel. Udi, you have the mic.
Okay, also in response to the ad, let's say if the government does not pay, their other organizations or their family will pay. So if the government doesn't pay, other people will pay, and this makes the government like very selfish because they know that their goal will not be reached and they still not helping the families for the person that is or the the reason in which they need to pay ransom.
Good. So you're saying that it's becoming like a selfish position from the government, correct?
Yes, because other people will end up paying.
It's like liberating themselves from the obligation. I see. Okay. We're waiting for people to get their names in the list to give their arguments. So now it's a good moment for that. We're gonna have a break in about 5 to 10 minutes. Mr. Ari Yeager, you have the mic.
Okay. Well, I understand what Udi and Alberto are saying, how we shouldn't, how we should do whatever we can in our power to save someone close to us. But by doing that, paying that amount of money, we're only encouraging and we're funding the terrorists to continue. Almost all, a large majority, almost all of their income to continue their terrorist attacks is from ransoms themselves. So by continuing to pay for these ransoms, we're only putting more and more and more people in danger from all parts of the world, whether it's Western Hemisphere or the Eastern Hemisphere.
Mr. Yeager, I'm gonna have a point of information. Do you have the source for that?
Sorry, what? You cut out.
Yes. Do you have this? Do you have the statistics, the source for those numbers you just gave?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you please show us?
Wait, Joy, can you share the slides?
More no me deja share screen.
Oh, I'll help that 1 second. There you go.
Okay. Looking here, as Alberto stated before, 45% of the 45% of hostages are from the US. But looking at the outcomes, 75% of the time, it's either negative, and even if it's unknown, most likely it's negative, because if you don't know what happened to the person, that's a bad thing. So looking at this, you know that the terrorists are only getting positives out of this. We're only getting negatives by paying them. In the Islamic groups have earned approximately $125 million in ransom between 2008 and 2014, with the Islamic State earning 20 million in just 2014 alone. And looking at this chart right here, you can see the average ransom payment in 2010 was 4.5 million, by the time it was 2011, it already grew another million or $0.9 million. And looking at the chart, you see over time and very quickly, rapidly, it is going up because we're only continuing to pay for these ransoms.
Thank you, Mr. Yeager. Those are good. Those are good pictures, and the source is down there. We'll double check how reliable that is. Mr. Alberto, I believe you have a point of information. Is that a question or a counter argument?
It's a counter argument.
Wait, Miss Charlie, the jury has the benefit of the speaking first.
I would like to know who checked whether the sites are valid and trustworthy. Point, the New America website is liberally biased and therefore use emotional language as well as emotional statistics to bias people against Republican governments. So I would like to know who fact checked and made sure everything is valid and trustworthy. Ladies and gentlemen, you should be very careful because your seminar
Seminar.
sitting in this debate, and I have very high expectations because you prove that you can do certain things while you're in seminar. So my expectation is that you use the same skills in this classroom. You have been doing very well so far with your debate, but sources are important, as you know. So if you didn't check them, how can we believe them? Thank you, Morisami.
Thank you, jury, Ms. Charlie. Alberto has the word, if I'm not mistaken.
If Ari would like to share, or somebody from the other class would like to share their screen and show that same statistic, it would be of great value for my counter argument. So Joy or whoever had the screen share, if you could. La otra. So my counter argument is, if your statistics are correct and based on our research, the United States does not pay ransom. And as you said, Ari, over 70% of the United States hostages come out as a negative outcome. So if negative outcomes come by not paying ransom, and in places like Switzerland and Spain that do pay ransom come out of a positive outcome, what's your point on debating if you are just showing that by not paying ransom, a negative outcome is coming?
Sorry, can you repeat that last part?
Based on your research, if you said that over 70% of the United States hostages come as a negative outcome and the United States does not pay ransom, what is your point in saying that we should not pay ransom and it comes out as a positive outcome, just like Switzerland and Spain that do pay ransom have almost the entire, if not the entire, positive outcome of the hostage situation? So my question to you is, if you're saying that not paying is better, then how come the countries that do not pay get a higher negative outcome than a positive?
Well, the positive outcomes are determined by, of course, people coming back alive. And by Switzerland and Spain paying for these ransoms as high as they go, they're funding the ability for them to attack the US. US and UK are two much bigger targets than Spain and Switzerland. So by them funding the terrorists, they're capable of attacking the US and UK. And the reason the US and UK's negative outcomes are so high is because of their consistent, like the terrorist attacks being so consistent and never stopping. They can't be stopped at all. And while they do not pay ransoms, it has been said that they do they make deals with other governments to pay for some ransoms, and even then for the few that they do pay, they just get negative outcomes regardless.
it is important to note this source that you have here showing. It is actually in percentage. It is not definite numbers. So as I'm gonna note, as Mr. Alberto said, that percentages in the U.S. are, they can be comparable, but quantity of abductions are definitely different from Spain to US. If somebody has that information on how many people have been kidnapped by any of those countries, and then we can use this table to compare it, I think that will be a very good point for any of you if you want to make a point out of this. I'm going to give the word now to Delegate Adrian Valencia. Adrian, the mic is yours.
Hello. So I would like to add that by not paying ransom, you are risking diplomatic relations with the nation which your hostages are being ransomed in. And obviously, although the sum of paying a ransom may seem very large at first, it's important to consider the cost of sending in soldiers in order to intervene in these conflicts, which can cost billions of dollars.
Correct. Delegates, we have reached the limit of our list. Anybody else wants to get on the list and debate? First call. Miss Reina, is that you?
Yes. Addressing Adrian's point, yes, it is a lot of money we need to use to make soldiers go in to be able to defend our citizens, but at least we are showing the terrorists that we are going to fight instead of just giving them money for them to kidnap more people. If we just give them money, they're going to see that because the whole kidnapping is a business. They need money to be able to finance their kidnapping. So if we give them money, we're actually making them be able to kidnap more instead of just sending in soldiers and taking all those terrorists hostage. That would be a much better solution for everybody.
Although it is true that they do benefit from the money they receive. At the end of the day, what's important is that you're saving the lives of your citizens, not necessarily whether the terrorists have money or not. Even though that could mean that more people could be kidnapped in the future, but at the end of the day, you just want to get your citizens out. And I believe that when you pay ransom, yes, you could risk future abductions, but not paying ransom is a big cost, which you're putting other people's, your own citizens' lives at stake.
So, Ms. Reina, you're basically saying that funds should be deviated towards destroying those terrorist cells instead of funding them. That's that correct?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So the only way to get your citizens back is not by paying ransom. You can also send in your army to fight against this terrorist and simply take them captive instead of funding their terrorism. That's what I'm saying.
Good point. Mr. Alberto, I believe you have a point of information.
Yes, I don't think this is my last point on Reina, on specifically what she said. By sending army and intelligence forces, we're not only spending money on something that we can just uh, use the wiser money, which is just paying the ransom, but we are not actually funding that much money because actually 10% of the money that the terrorists receive is actually from ransom. The other ones are from heist, robbery, and most importantly, the internet, because they ask followers or they make charities for people who would like to follow these terrorist groups or these kidnappings, and that's where they get most of the money. So that yearly $5 million, or I don't know how much it's that your peer Ari said, is actually nothing compared to the other things that we can actually stop, like terrorism and heists and all that, instead of kidnapping, which is a small percentage of what the terrorists are gaining. Yes.
I believe we have a point of information from Miss Charlie, the jury.
Patrick, can you maybe share that source with us about how you know where they get their money from and that it's only 10% that is being earned kidnapping?
We got it from Michael Jacobson from pages 353 to 363 on the article Terrorist Financing and the Internet.
What year?
2009.
Thank
June
you very much.
15th, 2009.
Another
Great.
thing, now that we're in sites, I also want to say that where we got the 45% of US citizens being kidnapped was from a policy paper being published in 2017. It is To Pay or Not to Pay Ransom is the title. It was written by Christopher Mellon, which is actually a past chief staff of deputy in the United States. So I think that that's kind of like countering the the name of the United States, but that's where I got it from.
Thank you very much for sharing your sources with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you, delegates. Thank you, jury. Miss Liat, do you have the word?
Yes, I would just like to add to the argument that Reina and Adrian were having, that so would you rather be funding terrorism by paying ransom, or would you rather fund your own army and your own soldiers to make them stronger and know how to act in that kind of situation to be able to make it easier next time that something like that happens? So would you rather spend your money on funding for your army and training and resources for your own army, or fund more terrorism?
It is simple, like to think that saving a hostage is as straightforward as just sending in your army, but obviously the kidnappers are hidden. They put in a great deal of effort into making sure that they are not discovered at all. And even if you do manage to find them, there's no guarantee that you can actually get the hostage out alive.
I know, that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it would be so much more efficient and better if you, instead of funding terrorism by paying ransom for the hostage, you could spend that money on funding for your own army to train them to know how to act in those situations. I'm not saying just to send people in and pay for people to go into the terrorist situation and try to get the hostage out. I'm saying you should spend that money on training. It would be so much more beneficial to whatever country we're talking about.
The money spent on training would probably be much greater than the money spent on the ransom, because as I said earlier, even though it seems like a large sum at first, compared to what it costs, for example, to put up a fighter jet or even to just arm one soldier, it's not really that much in the grand scheme of things.
That is also
Okay.
correct. However,
Delegates, I just wanna remind you, this is great. This is what we're looking for, but I need some order because I have some people waiting in a list, and you can continue debating, but we need some order in the court. So just please follow the instructions. If somebody sent an argument and you want to make a point of information, a question, you just raise your hand or you chat me, whatever it is, and I'll give you the word, and then we have to continue with the next argument, okay? Ms. Dia, you want to finish your argument, which we were saying,
yes.
And then we'll continue with the list?
Yes, thank you. Just one last point. Wouldn't you look at funding your army as a long-time investment? Because if you keep paying for ransom, the sum will just keep increasing and increasing. The victims will also keep increasing. So in the end, the sum is going to be greater than funding your army just to know what they should do in that kind of situation. So it's an investment. You're not wasting the money. And even though it's a big sum at first, over the years, it will be more beneficial. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Liat. We have a list. Mr. Alberto has the word, and followed by Michael and Reina. So hold for your spots. Alberto?
Although what Liat said is indeed true, the money that goes into paying ransom is not the same money that is going into military training. As you see, there are two different kinds of budget, the government budget and the military budget. The military budget has nothing to do, and the military training has nothing to do with the amount of money that is being paid. And if you say that these millions of dollars that we are paying ransom can go to the military is already having much investment in every single country that has a military, and the government is the money that is being funded by to pay ransom is not only from the government, but also a lot from families, charities, or fundraising to bring their fellow people home. So the argument in which you stated that it is a good investment, even though it is true, it's not the same money that it's not the same money that the ransom would be paid and the military would be trained. It's not just one place. It's different budget for different groups, organizations, and people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alberto. We have in list Mr. Ari Yaker. Ari, the mic is yours.
Okay, as Alberto said previously, from his last point, he said that a mere 5-10% of the terrorist income was from kidnappings, and the other 90% or so was from other sources. So how is it that that source you said was from 2009, 10 years ago? Using the chart I'd used previously, the average ransom has gone up rapidly over the last 10 years. So that can so seeing that, you can only assume that their other sources of income are very insufficient nowadays and are resulting to focusing on kidnappings, whether it's more kidnappings or, like they have been doing, increasing the ransom payment.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob. Solid point. Does your data shows from the last 10 years? Is that correct? What you just understood?
Yeah.
Okay, whenever you're able to have that in hand, please show it. We're gonna give the word in the meantime to Mr. Michael.
Okay. I would also like to say something about this point, the point that Liat said. Firstly, many countries are already paying billions and billions or millions of dollars in army and to actually fight against other things. And it will actually be more intelligent to just pay the ransom instead of actually paying the same amount of money or even more to train soldiers to act upon these situations and then risk that one of these soldiers or more than many more or many soldiers could die in this mission, and also the risk that the kidnappers could kill the hostage when they hear that they know where they are.
Thank you, Mr. Michael. I see no points of information for Mr. Michael. I'm just appreciating the table over here, shared by Joy. Is that till 2013? And the previous one was until 2016. So it's actually at least six years more updated than the R data, which makes some of a point. Mrs. Reina, you have the mic.
Thank you. Addressing what Alberto and Michael just said, if you are saying that most of their money, they don't get it from ransom, they get it from other places, for example, you said online robbery, that is exactly why we should use our money to hold these terrorists captive instead of giving them more money and financing more their acts. And not only will we hold them captive, but we'll also set an example for other terrorist groups, because when we hold them captive, we're showing we have power, we have strength, and other terrorist groups will be scared of all the power we have, that instead of just paying them, we're setting an example that we will act upon this terrorist.
Thank you, Ms. Reina. Delegates, we approach to the middle of our debate. We're gonna have a 5-minute break. Before that 5-minute break, I'm gonna first of all update my list. We have Ms. Wiss first after the break, then Udi and Mr. Steven. Okay, that's upcoming after the break. And also, I'm gonna share a message from our rabbi, the director. You can call him the president of our country if you want. Regarding this topic, I think it's very on the spot, and you should be paying attention. The next section, we will include any other Jewish halachic source can be added to the debate. We don't necessarily have to deviate from also the secular. We can actually blended together, and that's going to actually make the correct effect. So please watch your screen. One second. Again, technical issues. And here we go.
Queridos alumnos, ¿cómo están? Shalom a todos. El tema del debate es un tema muy interesante y bien controversial. Quería contarles algo personal, una experiencia personal, que en la época en que yo entré en la Tzabá, cuando tenía 18 años, y ahí fue la primera, lo que se llamó Iskat Chibril, que fue un acuerdo con una milicia que no era un país, o sea, no era un intercambio de prisioneros después de una guerra, sino una milicia que era terrorista, y Israel liberaría 2.500 terroristas a cambio de 6 Hayalim de la Tzabá, que cayeron en manos de los terroristas. Y fue una gran discusión, o sea, pues Israel nunca negociaba con terroristas, y esa es una base, y de repente la primera vez que se abrió, y fue una discusión muy, muy grande, y yo cuando entré a la Tzabá, fui de un posek, de un rabino muy grande, y preguntarle que yo como soldado, si Hasbe Shalom, y fui a la guerra del Líbano, estuve 3 meses allá, y quería decirle que si caía en una situación de tener que caer vivo en manos de un grupo terrorista, o luchar hasta el final y dar mi vida, ¿cuál sería la psakalajá? ¿Qué es lo que tendría que hacer? ¿Será que se puede cambiar terroristas por Hayalim? ¿Se puede rendir en un caso así? ¿O hay que luchar hasta el final? Que eso levanta la moral del ejército. Bueno, fue una pregunta muy fuerte, la respuesta fue más fuerte, y todo, pero sí, con esas incógnitas, con esas preguntas, dilemas, entré en la Tzabá. Baruch Hashem, estoy aquí y no tuve que pasarlo, pero en forma general fue una discusión muy grande, muy abierta en su tiempo, porque obviamente cuando más cambios de prisioneros con terroristas, más él los estimula a tratar de capturar soldados para liberar asesinos y liberar terroristas. ¿Okay? Es una pregunta grande, los dejo a ustedes con estas preguntas.
Thank you, Rabbi, for your virtual input. I think it is a great experience to show. So delegates, I am going to assign you the breakout rooms. Please join it, and we have our timer here. Let's breakout rooms, and it's open. Please join your rooms, delegates. Steven, are you here? Steven,
Muy interesante, Samy.
Miss Charlie, sorry, I'm going to translate for Miss Charlie because that was in Spanish.
Oh, sorry.
Basically, the rabbi said that when he was in the army himself, he had this very question, and he went to ask the rabbi because in that moment when he got into the army, into the IDF, they had an exchange, 6 Israeli soldiers in exchange of 2,500 terrorists, which is a crazy number. And so he went to ask a rabbi, which is an halachic, a law ruler in our, in the Jewish world, and he said, and he asked him whether he has to terminate his life or rather give into the enemy's hands and being captive. Like, should I let myself be captured or suicide, basically, in order to avoid those kinds of exchanges or putting other people in danger? And he didn't say the answer. He left it for the people to debate on the next step. But I think that's a very, strong situation.
Wow.
To bring up.
That is also very scary.
Yeah.
A very big question.
It's a crazy question. Like he's gonna be there, and you know, boom. And I was actually reading in the sources, and it said that they brought this topic into the Israeli court, and they were debating whether the soldier can activate a grenade and blow up himself, which we know in Jewish law it's completely against. You know, suicide it's totally forbidden. Not like Muslims that they just blow up. But in this case, being that other people and the nation has been put in danger, it was something to be evaluated. Mora, how is it, Morot?
Wow, super interesante. It's very interesting. They have sources, they investigate it, and they unbelievable. They know a lot, and I see them like they look like they are like reporteros. Like it's unbelievable.
Reporters.
I like the way that they are addressing that issue that is very polemic.
Baruch Hashem.
Unbelievable.
Thanks for coming, for real, everybody.
Yeah, sure.
I keep saying it because I know it's
The
hard.
rabbi sent me some pictures about the graduation, like because that is why I cannot go to the debates. He sent me a video about one that they went already, and they did they gave the diploma, and
Nice.
the boy, I don't know who was walking into the truck, and very exciting, and some stuff they are in the back clapping. Very
Baruch
exciting.
Hashem.
This group is definitely better with the debating part than yesterday's group.
Right? I thought it was me only.
No,
But-
they're definitely better with it.
But this group is
better?
actually from the lower level in Hebrew, like they're supposed to be the not so dedicated students supposedly, and look at this.
Oh, they're not dedicated, Sammy.
I'm gonna have to confess, for this debate, this group did much better during class time than the other one.
I teach this group too, and they are really good with debates. Really good because they don't have the ego to constantly want to say my thing. They think picture. They're good.
Crazy.
They're coming.
Yes, here they come. Okay, delegates, we have 20 seconds left from our break time.
Break time, coffee time.
We're missing okay, they're gonna be out in 6 seconds. 25 seconds, I'm sorry. The team 4. I closed that a little bit late. 15 seconds for them to come out of the group. Let me just send them a message. The time is over. Sharing over here. Okay. Okay, they're coming out. Okay, delegates, jury, we are officially, as you can see behind me, we are officially in the second to last part of our debate. We're entering and including the Alahic section into our debate, blending into the previous conversation. The mic at the podium is now for Delegate Isaac Mizrahi to come up and talk. Please, Isaac.
More, ¿estamos en halachic content o seguimos en secular?
We're gonna blend it in so you can keep talking about both stuff together. Okay.
In regards to what a lot of people were saying about some countries spending their money on military like improvements or trainings or what they can do about some hostages. A very common example of this is the United States, because they have tens of thousands of soldiers deployed in the Middle East, about some countries that have a lot of terrorist groups, such as Iraq and Iran. And okay, sorry, do you hear me cut out?
No, I hear you. I hear you well.
Okay. And a lot of those soldiers are there trying to save their country from what you could say a war, because it escalated to the point that there are so many troops in both of those countries that now the the relation between the Middle East and the US is not very strong. And not only that, that all those all those soldiers are trying to impede some terrorist groups such as ISIL, which in one case captured a American called Sarah Shore that she was interviewed in CNN, and she gave her very strong opinion about paying ransom or not, and she spoke about how it was a very delicate topic because anything that you could say about ransom can be counter-argued. And she said that all of this ransom and paying for ransom and whatever the countries do uh, is going to increase violence as it is right now in the Middle East. So she has a very strong point with that. And also that paying ransom is never...
Reach the conclusion, please.
Okay. Throughout the years, the US government, which is in this case the most powerful country in the world, you could say, has reached a level of empathy that in 2015 they changed the laws of the country that no one could pay for ransom. And in 2015 they changed that any citizen with third parties or with their families can pay for ransom. That was in the last year of Obama's stint as a president. So the US reached a point of empathy that they said that they cannot impede families from reaching their goals to the government.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate. I'm gonna have to make an interruption to the list because we need to give chance to those who are going to introduce the Alahic section to talk. So we're gonna start with the group against, which is Noah Yeager has the word for the group against regarding Alahic Torah, and then we have a list. We continue with the list after Alberto introduces the Torah law for the group in favor, or whoever is it in the group. We're going to continue with the list as you were writing up your names. Mr. Noah, please.
Okay, I'm just going to open up the slide to show some of my points here. Okay, see here. Okay. Can y'all hear me fine? I'm not lagging?
You're good.
Okay. So there are three main reasons to why we believe that we should not be paying ransoms according to halakhic reasons. The first one is the burden on the community. What kind of burden does this put? Well, let's see. In the Talmud, or we learn from this quote here, although slave trade no longer exists and therefore there is no price on human beings, we nonetheless appraise according to the value that the man is worth in place where there are slaves. We have found that any opinion in the commentators that the law today is different from Talmud times. Now, this is where this becomes an issue. If we are willing to pay any amount of money, any ransom, people are going to be continuously working. As we see now, it's in society, as long as they're making money or some sort of profit, they're going to continue working. We see in homeless people now, they work hours and hours a day, going through trash, getting cardboard and tin cans to make a few dollars. So imagine what happens when all it takes is to steal a person, and you can get thousands. If we continue to lower that, as long as there's money in the equation, there will be people who are after it, no matter what it takes. Unless we drop that to zero, then people will continuously go. When there's no money being made and people realize this, there will be no longer any reason to continue going after more people. There's also the second idea that the robber should not be able to seize more captives. And that's why we don't pay high. There's also a teaching that if a woman was captured, that they can offer up to 10 times its worth, 10 times their worth, and the husband will be required to pay. But if we were to pay higher ransoms for women, this would also now put a target on women's backs. And then that would also make a financial burden on all the husbands and all the other people that have to pay for it. And then the third reason is one or a few Jews in captivity does not take precedence over the safety of the entire public. That basically puts a halt to saving. There's no reason to invest money in saving captives, and there is no reason to supply terrorists, whether it be from the family or from the government, to these terrorists, because it will only endanger more people. We have learned previously with Moresami that when it comes to saving a life, if it endangers your own, you cannot save. So putting someone in possible danger, sending soldiers out to get them, will become a possible danger for the soldiers when there's already definite danger for the captive. Not only that, but those who supply the ransoms are helping with paying the millions of dollars to get new missiles and new people and all these other new tools to get more people endangered and captured and cause more chaos. And here we've got a quote from Rabbi Goren, who is a rabbi in the Israeli army. And he says that freeing hundreds of thousands of terrorists endangers the public because they'll be free to attack Israel and take more hostages. And it's clearly seen that in history, with especially with the case of that we saw Gilad Shalit, that they traded him for 800. If you take 800 and it takes maybe 4 people to capture just one person, you divide that 804 and you get 200. Those 200 groups each capture maybe one person, and you've got 200 new hostages that you have to trade for, whether in money or in more Islamic terrorists. And this is where we see that the ratio is roughly, on average, 800 to 1 Israeli soldier for 800 Arab prisoners.
Thank you, Mr. Noah. Points well made. We have Mr. Alberto, I believe, who's going to present the Judaic sources from the group in favor.
Yes. Can I share my screen? Yes, I can.
Okay.
So, where do I present? Wait. So, in our view of the Torah, we decided to go a little bit less in the economic side, which is something that we have all done the entire debate, and more on the moral side. The story of Abraham is basically in Bereshit when Lot was being captured and Abraham trained military. He didn't have to pay ransom in those times because the money was a little bit difficult, like in those times. But he did everything in his power just to save his nephew. What you said on Gilad Shalit is an actual counter argument against you. Even though it's bad that we're giving almost 800 people, we have to do everything in our power to actually take someone back. And in the Torah, in Yoma, I'm gonna quote, in Yoma 85b 4, 53b 8, and Mei Hashiloach, in the parasha of Yitro, it says that saving a life is the most important mitzvah ever, and it's just if not more important than is keeping Shabbat. And actually, if somebody is captured or something like that, and you can save a life, you are mandatory to even break the law of Shabbat just to save a life. So it's not more of paying ransom; it's more of saving a life, which is something that goes beyond the economic side, and it's something that Stephen will address in a little bit. Now I want to pass the word to Alan, who is somebody who is also doing the halachic view.
Mr. Alan, you have the mic. Alan, are you here?
Alan se le salió, creo.
Indeed, I don't see him in the list. So we'll continue with the list until he comes back. Is that okay?
Okay, until he comes.
Okay, so we're gonna continue, okay, because we're short on time. We have a list: Udi, Steven, and then Reina. Wait, oh, Alan is here. let's just, in order to finish the argument, um, wait for him. Is right coming in. 3, 2, 1, and he's here. Alan, you have the word. Alberto just finished with the first half of their tour views. I believe you're going to continue. Um, Alan, you're with us? Okay, Udi, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to add to Isaac Mistratti's point about the US. And the US does not pay ransom, and still there is no evidence that supports that Americans are targeted less often because of not paying. Also, by not paying, the US puts the hostage's life at a greater risk, and by paying ransom, they could save a life. Also, you can use the negotiation with a terrorist to gain some information and advantages against them. And only few countries like Britain and the US and Canada do not pay any ransom at all, but the majority of the rest of the countries, they do pay, and if they say that they don't, they do, but without anybody noticing.
Thank you, Mr. Udi. Steven, you have the word.
Okay, yes. So I want to make 2 points. I want to counter argue Reina's argument that she made before, and I want to make a new argument. First of all, as not only Reina but of her group is saying like we can pay more money and invest more in the army and in the instead of supplying them with money, we can make our like army stronger to avoid um kidnapping and everything. And as Alberto said, and no one has understand that point, the budgets are totally different. Military money is totally different from government money. Like if you can say like the money you save from not paying the terrorists is the money you're gonna invest in supplying your army. Like the money the money countries have to for their military is more than enough, and they don't need extra for so for like the opportunity cost that you get from not paying the terrorist. My new point is we're only looking at the economic side of the situation, but let's look at the moral side of the situation. When we're talking about if we should pay or not pay, and for people who get uh, people are who for hostages, we actually have. Let's think about if it's not like a normal person we're talking about. Let's say if it's someone that has relations to you, for example, your family, your someone who actually you actually care about. When someone is hostage and you actually know who they are and they impact your life, you're obviously gonna think differently. You can't say, okay, but since you don't want other people to get to 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 be hostage, you're not gonna do anything about it. You're obviously gonna think differently about the situation. Let's stop looking at the economic side and if you lose or supply your government or do whatever. Let's look at the moral side of the situation and what the Torah says. We're not God, as it says. We don't decide who lives and who dies. That's if as Noah said before, people do not have a price. As in no one is valuable. If in any way possible they give us a price for someone, we should absolutely take it and make the most benefit about it.
Delegate, please come to a conclusion of your point, please.
So my conclusion is for 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 the moral side of the situation, we should think differently on what we're saying. We should not only think about who wins money or who loses money or if the or if the terrorists are gonna kidnap more people. We should think about if those people are our people and actually make a difference in our life, or if it's family, if it's
a brother, whatever. We should not only think about the economic side of the situation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Steven. Alan is back with us. We're going to retake the Alahic concept and continue. Please, Mr. Alan.
Okay, back to the halachic concept because I missed it. Okay, the Talmud tells us that saving a life is one of the greatest mitzvot you can do. The Pidyon Shuim tells us it's a mitzvah rabbah, which means it's a great mitzvah, and it's viewed, can captivity is viewed as even worse, and starvation and death. Also, the Mishnah Sanhedrin tells us that whoever saves a life of Israel is considered as if he saved an entire world. This doesn't go like it doesn't apply to, let's say you're a Christian or yeah, let's say you're a Christian. It doesn't like it's not meant for like in that way, but it's also very applicable. That's what I think. Um, Also, the Torah forces us to save a life if we have the opportunity. It only tells us that if we are risking our own life, it is not a good exchange, you could say. But if you are just exchanging material things, it's very doable.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Next on the list, we have Delegate Reina Yoros.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try to address most of the things I said. So first of all, Alberto, you said that Abraham in the story, he didn't pay for ransom. He actually trained military. We do not say you can't train military. We actually support training your military and sending it in and getting your captives back. And the Torah actually says that we should not endanger our life. We should do everything we are able to save a life, but we cannot put our life in danger. And by paying ransom, we are putting our life in danger because we are showing that we're going to give them money because we are afraid of them and we're going to make ourselves a target. Also, morally, we are putting more lives in danger. So it makes no sense to say that morally we are obligated to save all the lives we can. If we want to save all the lives we can, we have to put money into our army and make them be able to fight the terrorists instead of just financing all of their acts. And talking about what you just said, that we are not God and we do not decide. Yes, we are not God. That is exactly why we do not choose who gets kidnapped or who gets put in these positions. We cannot decide. The only thing we can do is act the best way we can. We have to act morally, thinking about the other people, not just about ourselves. And if it was our brother or our family member, why would we want to give money to the people that are doing harm to them? Why would I want to finance somebody that just took my brother from me? It makes absolutely no sense. Also, the ratios are ridiculous, and to be financing these acts, it's morally incorrect.
Thank you, Mrs. Reina. Good point.
Can I counter argue?
We have Mr. Alberto and Michael. So we're going to have to follow the list. I'll put you on list, Steven.
So even though Reina's point was very clear and we respect that point, we all believe that training people, sending them to battle, is far more dangerous than giving money. Not only that, in those times you couldn't just send a message or make a phone call and say, I want this amount of money. Paying ransom was more difficult. Somebody went to Abraham and tell him, my boss wants 1,000,000 gold pebbles. He's gonna capture him and kill him. It's not the same thing which was a few thousand years ago than it is now. Also, in your point, you said, why would you risk a life if you want to save someone? Or how we said, if it's morally that we are not God and we not decide, you got that point and you turned it back into the economic part. And we're going to say it again, we're going to say it for a last time. Money that goes into ransom is not the same money that goes into military training. It's two different kinds of budgets, and it's two different kinds of uses that are being that of money that are being used. And if you say, well, the $1 million that we just paid could go to the military, that's not the same money. If that those $1 million would have gone to a different thing rather than going to the military. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Mr. Michael is on list,
Yes.
followed by Steven. Reina, you have a point of information or you have a counter argument? You have a question or an argument?
I have a new argument.
So, okay, so we'll wait for the list. Michael is up next.
I would like to clear up an argument that Reina said. She, in her argument, she said that we should think morally and we should not pay ransom, and that we should think about ourselves and think about others. Sorry. But if we start thinking about others, we should pay ransom, because we're actually not, if we pay the money, we're taking the money out of our own pockets, meaning we're not thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about others. We should put ourselves in the person that has been kidnapped situation, and we should think about how he is thinking right now, or how he or she feels, and we should act upon this and not leave him just stranded and just think about a possible outcome. And we should actually face the reality, which is someone is being kidnapped. We should act upon this and not think about ourselves, think about that person that is actually kidnapped.
Thank you, Michael. Guys, I'm just giving a short reminder. Try to deviate a little bit the debate towards the halachic point of view, which is what is mainly the section 4. You can blend it as well with the previous part, but don't lose focus. Steven, you're next.
Okay, so I wanted to make a point. As Reina said, you don't want to supply the person who kidnapped your brother. But if you're gonna have your brother back, are you really gonna not waste money and just let your brother die instead of paying and have a chance of getting your brother back? Like, it doesn't make sense what you're saying, because are you really gonna let your brother die instead of paying money to have a chance to get your brother back? That's not what I'm trying to say. And the other thing I wanted to say is for example, US military budget is, here it is, it's $934 billion that they have for military spendings. And that's just, I don't know, like, I'm not sure what's the money you spend on ransom to get for terrorists, but I'm very sure it's much less than that, and that's not gonna make almost any difference. Like $934 billion, that's enough money to supply a military army, especially the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Steven. I would try and search for those facts before making such an.
No, here it is. I'm gonna
no,
share
I
that.
understood the one that you found of the 9 billion, but the other one we actually don't have that info, so it will be good to see what's the rate.
Okay.
What's the rate? You can do that in the meantime. We have Reina and Liat on list. So Reina, the microphone is yours.
Okay, Joy, can you please share the slide? El 19. Okay, so here it says that a prominent German rabbi taken captive in the 14th century, Meir ben Baruch, instructed his followers not to pay a ransom. So here we can see a person that was actually held captive, and he, a big rabbi, asked them not to pay ransom. So if such a big person is asking his fellow people not to pay ransom, it is for a reason. It is because he doesn't want them to be in danger. So I understand what you're saying, but the budget that is for paying ransom should be completely eliminated, and it should be put into the budget for the military. You can never have enough money for a military because you never know what will happen. And the ransom budget should be eliminated. So here we see a rabbi asking for them not to pay ransom. Also, Joy, puedes ir al slide before. Here we can also see from the New York Times, as Bradley Burson wrote last week in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, over the past 54 years, the nation has freed a total of 13,509 Arab prisoners in exchange that brought home 16 captives, Israeli soldiers, a ratio of roughly 800 to 1. So this ratio makes absolutely no sense to anyone with moral sense, because this ratio is ridiculous. We should not be giving 800 to 1. Why are those 800 more valuable than 1, or that 1 more valuable to those 800?
Thank you, Ms. Reina. Thanks for sourcing your arguments. Ms. Liat, you're next.
Hi, I just wanted to go back to the point that Michael made about being selfless and thinking about other people. So he said that we're taking the money out of our own pockets to give it to pay the ransom. Yeah, that's true. But while paying the ransom, you're also being selfish, because you're only thinking about that one person. You're not thinking about the community as a whole and all the other people that you could be putting in danger potentially by paying that ransom, because you're encouraging the terrorists or whoever took that person captive to keep on doing it. So it is not about being selfless or selfish. It's about thinking about everyone and not only about the person who's being held captive.
Thank you, Liat. I believe the jury, Miss Charlie, has something to say, or?
No, it's okay.
No.
It was cleared up. Thank you.
Okay, that point of information was covered. Thank you, Ms. Renita and Liat. I'm gonna just ask the group against that should step up. You have 2 delegates that are fighting for you. Fight with them, okay? Next in line, we have Alberto.
First of all, I want to make the point that Stephen made and help by saying that what they're arguing is if you don't pay, the money you use is a long investment on Z or X or Y thing. But if you think about it, the money you are actually paying for is a long investment for the other person to actually live. You are killing somebody and you're gonna live with the guilt that you could have saved someone. You could have done something and you just didn't do it because you wanted to be selfless, as you say, but it's actually selfish, and just decide, I don't want to pay, so he deserves to die. We don't say who lives and who dies. And also, on Reina's citation, that story is from the 14th century, and a lot has changed in over 700 years. And if the rabbi did that just to clarify that he wants to die in honor or doesn't want people to waste his money on him, that would be a little bit irrelevant in today's day, as you countered an argument that I did about 10 years ago, and there's a little bit more has changed in 700 years than in 10. So
thank you, Mr. Alberto. Our list is already empty, if I'm not missing anyone. We're gonna go ahead. Oh, Mr. Noah?
I think Noah wanted to say something.
Thank you. Yes, I didn't see that. Thank you.
I would like to counter that idea that you were saying that you'll feel guilty about not doing anything, because this is directly the issue with the trolley problem. Whether you pull the lever and kill the 1 to save 5, or you do nothing. And that's where this becomes problematic, and that becomes flawed, because it depends solely on the person. One might argue that doing nothing, you'll feel guilty and it'll be much worse. Others might argue that it is better to pull the lever. And that's why I see that that argument is incredibly flawed. That is all.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you. Delegates, if we have no more interventions, we're going to go ahead to our last section of our debate. I'm going to give you 2 minutes more into your breakout rooms, so that you can write down a conclusion. You're going to have one last word each side. This is no more a debate. You're going to write a conclusion of your side based on what was discussed over here and whatever you will be able to learn out of it. and so that the jury can decide after the debate what conclusion or what will be the winning team in case there is one. Okay, so please go ahead to your uh, um, breakout rooms. I'm gonna be opening them again. There you go. I'll see you in 2 minutes. Please join your breakout rooms. Thank you. Alan, you're with us? Joy, Udi?
More, creo que cuando me salí y volví a entrar no me pusiste de vuelta en el...
I will reassign you to the breakout room. 1 second. Yes, you are a favor. There you go. Alan? Oh, oh sure. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. You're muted, Miss Charlie. Would you finish it any way different from yesterday? Like, would you do something different from what was yesterday at the end?
No, I liked how they had their conclusion yesterday. I think it finishes everything off. And I feel like things are starting to move in a circle now. So it's a good time to finish it.
Yes, yes, I feel the same. I feel the same. Good. Okay, so good timing.
Yes.
I think that's good enough. We used to do UN models in school, and this would go like for a full day, this debate. It will be a full day. Right, in Hebraica, ¿te acuerdas? De Camun.
Yes.
And it was a full day, literally. We started at 9 a.m. We finished at 4 or 5 p.m. And, you know, sessions. It was crazy.
Wow. I don't think I have the stamina for that.
Moon, and then you used to travel to Washington, no?
Well, I didn't myself. My brother went to Boston. They had a world model United Nations, and they actually won with their university. They made a, yeah, it was crazy. Some people fly. Depends where you're, you know.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna close the breakout room now. I think that's good enough. Also, we all have schedules, and I don't want to take you from your. So they have 1 minute to finish. Probably some of them will come out before that finishes.
So then you have to decide who is.
I won't say it in public. I won't say it in public. We'll see if you have a if you have an opinion, please let me know.
Oh.
I'm not really sure what to say, but
I think the one that where is Reina, I think is good. But actually, Alberto, he has many arguments, very basic.
I'm careful of Reina's one because she gets very emotional and she uses ridiculous a lot without proving why it's ridiculous. But she has a lot of good points.
Yes. We'll keep discussing the verdict after the debate finishes. Thank you, jury. We're getting back our. So if you can please write down in the chat who will deliver the conclusion of your team.
Isaac Mizrachi will be doing the conclusion in our
Isaac Mizrachi will give the conclusion for the group in favor, and finally we will have Reina, Liat and Joy will do for the group against. Isaac, you have the podium.
Yes. In conclusion, we can say that throughout the years, many people, including governments, have increased their level of empathy and generosity through many other people. And that's only on the moral side. But if we have to see what the Torah, or the thing that we follow on a daily basis, has to say about this, we can see that they say that we should save a life no matter what, and that it should be our priority. It even states that we should save a life even if we have to break Shabbat. And that just shows the importance that one life can have, like the importance that one life has on our, like on what we follow on a daily basis. And that what Enrique community can be impacted in a much higher way if someone of the community is kept hostage rather than if they can be presumed as if they are being sought after or in danger, because that's not certain. But what is certain is that somebody was taken away from the community, and in every community each person is a big part of it, and that's why a community is formed.
Thank you. Thank you, Isaac, for the group against. The conclusion?
The conclusion, okay. So we would like to say that it is absolutely immoral for us to finance terrorism and put a target on ourselves, on our community, or our country, or the people that surround us, for that matter. We should always try to be selfless and think about the other people, not only about the person that's being held hostage, even though it might seem selfish at first. We have to think about the big picture, not have a tunnel vision and just of what's happening right now, but think about the long run, think about the future. We also believe that we should finance our armies and train our people to know what to do in these sorts of situations to make it easier and more plausible for us to prevent these kind of things, and also to make it less complicated in the future to get hostages back and get out of situations like these. Also, apart from that, we also believe that it that if we stop paying for ransom, eventually these cases will start decreasing and it will be better for us in the long run.
Thank you, Leah. Joe, you wanted to complete? Is that what I got?
Sí, and we would like to end with this quote that says, "One does not ransom captives for more than their value because of Tikkun Olam, for the good order of the world, and one does not help captives escape because of Tikkun Olam." And the quote is from the Babylonian Talmud.
Wow.
Thank you, Joey. Thanks for that. Jury, do you want to give a final word of appreciation? I'm gonna start. I wanted to first of all thank you all for a great year of learning, of studies, of not only a year. I think we spent like at least 2 years together, and this is the last day. This is the last project, and you know it's been quite a trip with you guys, journey. I really appreciate it. I'm really gonna miss you. Although next year we're all still in school, but probably I won't be teaching you, so I will miss you very much during the classes and all the interruptions, the kosher interruptions in my class and all that stuff. Really, every and each one of you. And I want to thank you for your great effort during this debate. We all saw, the jury and the moderator, we all saw that you actually went into investigating. We're gonna have a meeting afterwards. We're not decided yet as to who is the winner. So that we're gonna give it afterwards. Okay. We have our notes over here, and everybody has their own notes, and we'll figure that out. Okay. Um, Anybody else wants to?
Can I say something?
Please.
I didn't think I was going to see any of you again after my exam and the class and so on, but thank you so much for a wonderful year. Thank you for your hard work. I really enjoyed this debate. You did really great. I'm very impressed. And I'm looking forward to teaching you all next year again.
Thank you, Miss Shirley.
Thank you, Miss Charlie.
Thank you.
Charlie.
Thank you, Miss Charlie. Guys, don't waste your vacations. Take advantage of them.
Study
Okay.
Torah.
Mora, ¿quieres decir algo?
Sí.
Study Torah.
I'm very proud of you. I'm impressed. I wasn't in the other debate, and it's unbelievable, you guys, how much you grow and you are thinking about so many aspects of that you are the defending or you're against, but with many sources and many, thinking of all these parameters. I'm very, very proud of you guys. And okay, looking forward next year, seniors. Oh my God, can't believe. Congrats.
Yes.
And have a great break.
Gente, se les quiere. Mora, ¿usted quiere decir algo, Mora Tamar?
La verdad que felicitarlos y desearles todo lo mejor y mucha suerte. Y bueno,
Gracias, Mora. Gracias a todos, gente. Estamos en contacto, si Dios quiere.
Gracias, More.
Mucha
Gracias.
suerte.
More, gracias.
Chao, gracias.
So,
Cuídense.
have a good
It's
year or
amazing.
good break.
Great.
Ciao.
We're gonna see the graduation of the seniors.
Ciao.
Bye,
Thank you,
Sharon.
guys. Thanks for everything. I'm gonna go ahead again.
Yeah.
This is too much for me.
And you have already the results of the other debate?
I think Alberto is still here.
No, I don't want the result, only to know if you did already.
We're debating on it. Wait a second. Let me help this out.
I have a question. Did they choose to be against or in favor, or you choose it?
So in the beginning they chose, I gave them the option. It was sometimes uneven, so I had to remake the groups. Like the groups were redone a couple times because this was like from the last month they were preparing for this.
So how long they were studying for that? I mean,
Around the past month, one class was of the NIM and one class was for the debate. So for the last month, more or less, they were using one of the
excellent
2 classes a week basically for this, and then the last week was completely dedicated to the debate. But yeah,
I love it that they look for the Alachic part and everything.
Yeah,
it was very nice, very interesting.
Thank you. If you have an opinion on who could be the winner, I wouldn't mind. It's very welcome. But
I'm leaning towards Alberto's group because they brought morals in, but
okay.
also because they said the main focus isn't money. It's how you would feel in that situation, and they looked at it from a variety of points. They looked at the money point, but they also looked at like the emotional point of view and the moral point of view as well. But I don't know, both were very strong.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to affect their grade. We can have a winner without necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm saying losing does not mean you're not gonna get a good grade.
Actually, in the reality, it's hard, right? You cannot. What do they do actually?
It is not a definite decision. Like each case
Exactly.
is evaluated
Depending of many.
On a case, on an individual base. The halakha itself, it depends on who is being kidnapped and how much they're asking for. Like it's not a simple thing. But that's why it makes out of the debate, right? If it would be simple, they wouldn't have what to debate on.
Do we have the rabbi's answer, like the from?
I need to ask him. No, I need to ask
we don't
him.
have it.
That is why he didn't say it.
I was like, okay, what's the answer?
I'll ask you for it, and I'll send it to the students and you as well.
Yeah, please.
Sure.
It's what you say, that depending of many, each case is different.
Each case is different, but just to think that there's a possibility for something like that, we know suicidal, it's like the worst thing, like one of the worst things, and just to fathom that it's a possibility is crazy.
What? I didn't hear you. What did you say?
The fact that there is a possibility of a soldier to suicide before getting captured, even if that's the law or not, just to think about it, it's, it already breaks a lot of barriers. Bueno,
Well, I'm gonna go rest until the next meeting.
go ahead. Save your screen time.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thanks for coming. Really.
Thanks for having me.
It was a
Bye,
pleasure. Excellent.
Bye. All the best. We'll see you in the next meetings.
Bye, Tamar.
Gracias,
Bye,
Mora.
Shirley.